we are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk.
Hey everybody, it's Aaron, and before we start the episode, I just want to say it's a little bit of an older episode that we had recorded before everything got released with the GT4. So now that we know that the GT4 is coming out with a 4-liter or a tweaked 3.8, however you want to look at it, because that's what it is. That's what our premise was. We could just speculate like everybody else beforehand, but now we know, thanks to Goodwood, that they released everything and all the coverage on it. So everybody enjoy the show. I think so.
Okay. Welcome to another episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And we have some stuff to talk about today. We have Brandon Hartin from Hartin Media Group. We'll be on the show a little bit later. But right now we got some 718 news to talk about. And then we'll talk a little bit about our visit to Revs Institute today. So let's go ahead and get started. So the 718 Cayman GT4 was spotted at the ring.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like zero camo on it. They're not hiding anything. They don't care. I guess when you're ready to debut the car, at this point, what are you really trying to hide, right?
Yeah, they're not trying to. Yeah, they want some hype.
Exactly. So dressed in all black, there was 3 of them out there. So there's rumors going around about what engine's in the car right now, right? So they're they're trying to say maybe there's a 4-liter in there. It's detuned. Most seem to think it's the 3.8 liter. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think they're probably running in that thing?
I don't see them running the 4-liter because it's too close to Big Brother.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, but I can see them still getting, decent power as long as it's a slow car. They have to do
something. No, it's a ton of power
because
still.
Isn't the GTS that they have out right now, isn't that outperforming the GT4 that they currently have?
I think it is.
So
yeah,
they got to do something. Something new has to happen.
So I think it's probably going to be the 3.8, but it's going to be just spruced up. No real numbers. Everybody's guessing what they think that's going to be, but some confirmed numbers on what some other things are. It's 110 pounds lighter than a standard 718.
So that would speak to the. And remember we talked on a couple episodes ago about them going to the sixes, the flat sixes.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's lighter,
yeah,
maybe they don't need to be as efficient with it. It doesn't need to be a 4-liter.
No, it definitely doesn't. Not in that car. And then on top of that, it's getting the full, race treatment. The GT treatment. It's got the door pulls. It's going like lighter glass.
All the cool stuff.
Yeah, the plexi I think is going to be in it. I don't know if the U.S. standard doesn't get plexi, but I think it's going to be lighter glass, what have you, and things like that. But it's good that it's coming out. I'm glad they're still carrying that lineage. I'm glad it wasn't a flash in the pan just for them to have the GT4 for a little bit and then let it die. It seems like this is going to be a mark that they're going to continue with. I guess the unique thing in my mind, though, is don't they? I guess they stop production on a GT3 sometimes between years. Not always, but, between year and make models or something like that. But I just thought it was kind of unique that they stopped production on the GT4 and now they're going to come out with another GT4. Any thoughts or theories on why they maybe have done that, or
maybe they just really wanted to re-engineer it? And my thought that's weird to me is they never made an RS. As many people said they were going to make a GT4 RS.
Yeah,
never happened. So there must have been either they just didn't sell. They definitely sold.
Yeah, I sold them all.
They're limited, and maybe they wanted to keep that kind of foray going on, it being a special car and not do an RS.
Yeah.
Maybe there is an RS coming.
Yeah, and now that you bring that up, I didn't even think about that from an RS standpoint. You know what? Maybe the GT4 is going to get the 3.8, and maybe they're saving the RS. They're going to put the 4-liter in it.
That could be cool.
That could be pretty wicked.
They have the club sports. What are they? Those.
Yeah,
things,
that could be pretty wicked. So. Porsche's making all these other different spin-off marks and doing all these other things with different model lines.
Well, if they did the T, then they have to do an RS to match the other lines.
You would think.
There's not a Cayenne RS. Any type of GT.
Yeah, but I meant from a sports car standpoint, it would make sense that that's what they would run with, as opposed to not having an RS.
True. And there's going to be a market for it. If I'm buying a club sport, I definitely would like more of a hardcore car than the GT4 is.
Yeah, it's a good point. More to probably follow on that. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see an RS come down the line eventually with that car.
What would you like to see in it motor-wise? Would you really want the 4-liter? Just because the liter bigger is better.
Yeah, I guess. I guess it wouldn't really matter. to be fair, again, we haven't had a whole lot of seat time and when I mean a whole lot, I mean zero in a Cayman to begin with. We have friends with a lot of them, and we're eventually going to get our butts in one of them, but we just haven't done that yet. But I guess from an RS standpoint, I guess if you go with a GT4 with a 3.8 and you make an RS, it only makes sense to put the 4-liter in it, right? Like you'd have to kind of like step it up. I mean, that's the goal. If you're getting an RS, it has to put more power down. But I mean, maybe they'll just tweak the 3.8 more. Maybe they'll detune a 3.8. But I just don't really see what's the point of detuning something and then just to retune it to make an RS model. I think it would be nice to get the bigger liters and the more power out of the 4.0.
Sounds better when I tell other people that I have a GT4 RS with a 4-liter in it.
Yeah, right. Sounds
so you
pretty
didn't
mean.
get a GT3?
Yeah.
No.
You're like, no, I got the mid-engine when it revved the 9,000.
I like this balance.
Yeah. They're like, ooh, okay.
So what do you think horsepower-wise, speculation, what do you think?
For the GT4, the new one that's coming out? Man, that's tough to say. I mean, obviously it's got to be in the high 4s, right? Like it can't be past Big Brother. If I had to guess, I would probably say anywhere from like 470 to 485 in that range.
That's some power for that car.
It's a lot of power, but I think that's where that car's going to live at, I think, in my mind. Especially if it comes with this motor. That's where I would think it would probably live at, because, I mean, what you have, the standard GT3 is at 500 horsepower now. The RS, obviously, we got that kind of power. It's going to be coming out in the 991 GT3, the 991.2, the one that's coming out. So, I mean, I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll find out, because this car's supposed to be being debuted at Goodwood.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So
get to see it go up the hill.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get to talk to somebody about it there, and I'll get to say, hey, what's this thing putting down? Is this the actual one?
Classified.
Yeah. No, you'll find out eventually.
When's it coming out? Oh, I can't tell you.
Gotta get allocation for it first. Like.
Sweet.
Yeah, but who knows? It's nice to see that there. Spinning into Goodwood. Anyone who is going to Goodwood Festival and Speed in January, please come up, say hi. We'll have some swag for you. That'll be great to see you. We love interacting with all the guests. So if you're not, obviously we'll be over there during that time. If you see us wandering around, the Americans that are there, say hi.
Won't stick out at all.
Yeah, so say hi on that. But yeah, I think it's an interesting car. I mean, they've been doing a lot of testing at the ring. I mean, this is the time of the year where a lot of stuff, the test bed stuff, gets happening, right?
Yeah, right before the new year, car releases.
So. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's not, the weather's nice now, right?
Yeah, it's just now getting into some good summer weather there.
Yeah, it's time to
not
hit.
Snowing.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not frozen tracks. Yeah, so that's what we have from the ring. What's coming out there? So we ended up going to the Revs Institute. That was an interesting visit. Thanks to the FOG, right? The Florida Owners Group. Mike Davis and their whole team for inviting us to go along with their little tour. So what the Revs Institute is, they're in Naples, Florida. I think it's semi-private, right? It's not.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's not, like you said, I don't think it's open on the weekends. I think it's open during the week, but it can also be closed down, because that's what they did for the FOG group.
Yeah, so if you're ever in the area and you want to go check it out, it's not a Porsche-only museum. So is it Miles Collier? Miles Collier collection. The theory behind that whole deal is it's vehicles in time. Due to racing and stuff like that, and road racing and things that he had some interest in that, and vehicles that he felt that were significant that are in that collection. I think they said there was roughly 115 cars, give or take, 5 or 10 here or there sometimes, if they're shipping them off to get them restored or showing them at somewhere else. But they did have a pretty significant Porsche area, right?
They did. I mean, even the stuff that wasn't Porsche was still, I think everything had a race pedigree, it seemed like. Like everything. And a lot of it, the cool thing I think about it, even though it wasn't, I mean, I would like it to be bigger. Of course, everybody would like more walking around and seeing cars. But the condition they kept the cars in, almost every car, and including the Porsche, like I've never seen 917s in this condition, where it was literally like from the air, off the track, in that museum. Like it was you could see the brush strokes and things, and like they
Yeah,
didn't.
that was pretty wild.
Or like Mike and I were talking about this tail light, and like why it must have moved at one point because it got riveted in a new location, or it came out, and every bit of those cars you could see chipped paint everywhere. I mean, the secretary cars, like we talked about, I was like, man, I didn't realize. I mean, I knew they were putting them out fast. Obviously, they needed to.
Yeah, the paint was
But
still
I mean,
wet as they bring them out to the parking lot.
But I mean, they didn't care. It was just like the brush strokes. You could see the green in the brush strokes, but then you could see green over the top of the headlamp. There was like a spot where the paint had flung off and just kind of dried there.
Yeah,
and it was cool.
It's like whatever. It's a race car. Who cares? That's what they were thinking about, right? They're like, it doesn't need to be pretty. Yeah, so their Porsche. Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, the significance of some of the cars that they had there. They had the Martini 917 there,
23 car,
the number 23 car that had raced in tons and tons of races. It was still wearing like half the track on it, basically.
Half the track and half its paint.
Yeah, so that was actually really cool that you'd not to see a fully restored 917, almost kind of just looks the way it should look, almost like a baseball player's mitt. It's like you go look at his mitt, it's not brand new. It was an instrument basically, and it was a tool.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that from so you see, the Martini livery, and it's got the silver and all that stuff, and the stripes are over it. When you look at it from where the motor is in the center, and you look at where the trumpets are, if you look to the side of both, they didn't bother to paint the areas right next to the trumpets. It goes from the silver stops, trumpets, and then back to the silver. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was the weight savings. It just didn't care. I mean,
it's out there to do. They just got enough paint on it just to get it through what it needed to get through, and it was like whatever. You could see the fiberglass. We don't care if that's not pretty. That's not what this is for. So
that 356 they had at the beginning, the Lee Jerome car.
Yeah, that was
pretty cool.
That was a beautiful car. Yeah, that was a very, very beautiful car.
I think that was their most recent.
Yeah, that's their newest one that they added, right? That car, and it was neat how. I know we didn't get to ask him, but what were the theories? What are your thoughts on the different seating? Was that just something maybe even like more modern, like, and I'll compare it, and then you can answer? Is like when somebody takes a car, right, a newer car, and they just put one Recaro seat in it, and they go racing. You think it's more of kind of that's what that was for that time?
And I know that in Germany, in some of the other cars, they have a therapeutic Recaro, and that's exactly what that reminded me of. It looks like somebody had so they had the leather co-pilot seat, if you will, and then that driver's seat didn't even have a headrest on it, but it looked like it was bolstered with the most comfortable cushion you'd want to sit in for a good while. Because Lee Jerome, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, like a long road race like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to give it a try to see how comfortable it is. I don't know. I mean, it looked like it held you in pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just kind of interesting to see that, that difference. It wouldn't
be as hot. It wouldn't be as sticky. I mean, it's not like...
Yeah, it would breathe, right? Yeah. Like, that's the theory behind having maybe like a houndstooth insert or something like that. The seat's going to breathe a little bit better. So, yeah, that was interesting to see that. Wasn't that what was that 911 that he talked about? Remember that was the one who won Rolex? Remember he was telling us that story?
There was a couple of them.
It was privately owned, and it won its class at 24-hour Rolex. I want to say in like 69 or something like that. Don't quote me on the year, but I think the gentleman that was talking about it, and it wasn't a team owned. It was privately owned. He bought the car, took some stuff out of it, but then he ran the 24-hour Rolex, and he won his class at the Rolex, and he was a privateer.
So they did everything Porsche tells you that a Porsche can do.
Yeah. Like basically he bought it, he took it there, he ran the tires on it that came with it in the 24-hour race. He had the Blaupunk in it still, the radio. He listened to the radio at night when he was running on the track at night.
Dude, that's epic.
Yeah,
that's
and he won his class. Like, that's how awesome is that?
How cool to be running those 69 songs, rock songs,
like,
just
like on Daytona. You're like, this is so cool, man.
Look what I can do, guys. Can you do this? Click, click, radio.
Yeah. And that's probably like back in the day where,
I'm surprised that's not vocalized more. That is a
maybe it is, and we just didn't know.
Yeah, maybe.
We're not the know-all or tell-all behind things. So, maybe that's just a new story for us, but that doesn't mean that story doesn't exist, and everybody else knows it, and we don't. Yeah, I know, right? To have a privateer to be able to do stuff like, what a cool era, though, to be able to do things like that.
Hey, guys, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I think I'm going to run the 24-hour Daytona.
Yeah. I won, dude. What? whatever, you know?
Then you just pick that up? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good though. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Also, they had a couple other 917s there too, right? They had the Can-Am one, which was pretty awesome. Sounded really good. They were running that at Rensport. They were showing the video that's another thing that leads me to, that brought up a good point, that they run all those cars.
Yeah, everywhere.
In the sense of like, maybe not like, in race application and they're just out there gunning them all the time, but they run them in the sense of where they can get them up to temperature. They run them around, that way they're just not sitting and getting decrepit and falling apart. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, that is really that, and sharing them with people is what makes that special.
Yeah, we saw a video of them having one of the secretary cars, the 917, that I guess a Porsche dealership opened up a few years ago down the road, and they actually like fired the car up and had a police escort and drove it down the road to the place. Yeah. And they were saying it was pretty cool to see the video, of it driving on public roads. You see this 917 going by. It's like, what?
That would have to be a sight.
Yeah, I wish I would have kind of like got to see that in person. That would have been pretty cool. And they said it ended up catching a red light or something like that, and ended up having to stop had to stop at the red light. Can you imagine seeing like a 917 sitting at a stoplight?
Well,
like,
it's not. He had to be just on it, just revving and revving and revving.
Yeah. Wow. Like, yeah, pretty insane. But needless to say, it was a great trip, right? There's a lot of video out there on it, as far as us recording. If you haven't looked at it yet, it's on YouTube. We've published a video, so definitely go check that out. Give us a like on that, and pass that on, because there's a lot of stuff in there that probably you're not going to see all in one location. Had a lot of engines in there too, out of, on engine stands, like the actual engines. They had a bunch of flat 12s there, some flat 8s.
Yeah, I mean, they had to have...
They had some hardware.
Yeah, they did. And then they did make the claim that they have the second biggest race collection outside the museum in Stuttgart, which is true. I mean, Stuttgart has a lot of stuff, but just like I was telling Mike, the way that they preserve the race history there is different from anything I've seen so far in my life.
Absolutely. I've never been to that intimate of a setting where it didn't have that much public access, and for them to have
no stanchions or anything like
that kind of level of cars. I mean, like I said, you got to see the video, because like there's a lot of me being able to like stick my arm into a window and videotape the cockpit. Like, we were standing on the cars, obviously respectfully, we weren't touching them, but we were close enough to touch them, no problem. Like there were no, like Aaron said, there was no barrier, there was no nothing. Like, we could get all around the car, underneath the car almost. And I've never been to any museum with that kind of setting and that kind of, availability and accessibility.
Yep, that's true. I mean, unless you're getting private tours, normally that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for that, Revs Institute. If you're ever down that way, definitely try to get yourself in there and check them out and see all the great stuff they're doing and trying to preserve history and pass on the legacy, not even just from a Porsche standpoint, but just racing history. There's a lot of stuff. There was like a Jaguar D-Type in there, like I've never even seen a D-Type in person before.
Yeah, same here. That was my first time.
And that was, and all the cars in there, they're not replicas, they're all real. So
and an E-Type, and there was a Bugatti that was like a barn find. Somebody had been, I forgot where it all had been raced at, but I mean, it was not even painted. Mm-hmm. They didn't even take the time to repaint it because they wanted it exactly how it was found, but it was in boxes.
Yeah, exactly right. Like the original way it was set up. So that was pretty interesting. From Tampa, it's about a 2.5 hour drive south of us, so it was definitely worth the drive. It was a bit of a haul, but it was worth it.
Yep, I'd say make a day of it.
Yeah, if you're ever in the area, definitely, like I said, they're not open on the weekends, so check their hours if you ever try to go there. But we definitely want to shout out to them and thank them for that. So let's move on a little bit to the newsletter, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about the website. Let's talk about YouTube.
New things.
Yeah, new things that we're doing, and remind everybody what we're doing. So let's talk about the newsletter. Talk to these folks about this newsletter that you made.
Anything you want to know that we're doing coming up? The breakfast, and that's going to be on there.
Talk about that for a minute, because we haven't really talked about that a whole lot to a lot of people.
We haven't. So we're doing a breakfast every second Saturday of the month. It's going to be in downtown. It's going to be at Goody Goody Burger in Tampa. And it's open to any Porsche enthusiast. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. Just come and enjoy and hang out. That's pretty much what we're doing. It's going to be on the rooftop of the parking garage that's
Yep.
straight across from the Senate Bistro / Goody Goody Burger. And
Yeah.
rain or shine.
Yep.
So we did
Morning
it.
meets,
Yeah.
7:30 a.m., it's kind of super casual, it's not like you have to be there at 7:30. If you show up whenever, it's just kind of like whatever the masses kind of show up. Anybody gets hungry, they can go in at any time. You go in and get hot, whatever. It's not like everybody has to go in together. Everybody has to come out together. It's not like that. It's not.
There's no itinerary in there.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's an adult and you do things.
Exactly. It's not all siloed up like that. It's kind of just go enjoy yourself, go do that. And yeah, so like stuff like that will be on the newsletter. What else is going to be on the newsletter?
Well, maybe the new golf stuff we just released. So the new poster and the shirt that we did for a part of our 917 series.
Yeah.
So our one of the 917 is, if you haven't figured it out yet, there might be a third one coming out.
Maybe. All right. And like I said, like those things are limited, guys, and that's why we kind of need you guys on the newsletter. Again, we don't sell your info. It's all, in-house. It's all kept. It's just for us to be able to talk to you and give you the heads up of what's going on. So don't be fearful of like, oh, these guys are going to data mine me. They're going to send something out. It's none of that stuff. It's basically just to let you know that we're doing something new, something that's coming out, a recap of what's going on, where we may be at.
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep you informed of what's going on if it doesn't get conveyed, or maybe you didn't hear the podcast or you didn't see a YouTube video and you missed it. At least at a minimum, you checked your email and you saw what was going on, and that should be coming out about once a month, right?
Yeah, and try to do it at least once a month, preferably probably the first of the month for the newsletter. And it's even some of that stuff is pre-production. Like the thing we released for the golf wasn't a full finished product yet.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for the shirt design. So you're going to get to see that beforehand, know it's coming, and then we'll let you know when it's released.
Yeah. And it's not a marketing ploy, guys.
No.
It stuff is really like limited. So like the goal is by the end of this year, that stuff's going to be out. Like we're going to,
Christmas time.
Yeah, we're going to take that stuff off. We're going to give you guys an opportunity to maybe make some Christmas gifts with that stuff if you want to pass that on to whoever you may want to do that with. But, come December 25th, doors are closed on that thing, regardless of how successful it is or unsuccessful it is. It doesn't matter. Like we put the timeline on that. And then we'll run some other vintage stuff behind it. We're just going to try to keep it fresh. That way it's just, again, it's not a marketing ploy. New. We just want to keep rotating new things, new race history stuff.
We want Porsche stuff. So,
new race history stuff, more of kind of stuff. It's like, where people can't access things all the time. If you're in the know, we kind of want to, treat everybody who's maybe listening at the time and say, hey, you do have a pretty big window. I mean, you have a 6-month window. This is when this is going to happen. If that's not, doesn't work for you, boom, we're going to close the door and move on to the next one. And again, you'll figure that out on the newsletter when you hear the new stuff coming out for that way and things like that. So on YouTube, right? What are we doing on YouTube now?
Tons of stuff on YouTube.
Tell them the schedule. What are we doing?
Not only do we do the podcast, obviously, is coming on video as we're doing the audio together. Then on Mondays, we do the vlogs. So anything we do out throughout the week that's Porsche related, life related, car related, that's what we're putting on Mondays. And then on Fridays, we're doing our mixed bag Fridays. And that could be anything from car review type thing, could just be something we found that is cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like it said, it's mixed bag.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be something different to keep it just not humdrum and boring.
Exactly. And anything can be from car reviews to just videos of us just hanging out, with the Porsches doing something or, whatever. You figure it out, maybe us at a racetrack or race footage or whatever. So you get the point on that. Purpose of that, just want to give you guys a little, input, what's going on there. We definitely appreciate everybody who's been listening and who's continuing to support us. We thank you guys so much. We're going to go on a quick break, but when we come back from break, we're going to have Brandon Hartin from Hartin Media Group on the show, and it's going to be a great second half of the show, so stay tuned.
Absolutely good.
Thank you guys listening to PCAR Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Please go to pcartalk.com and check that out. We have a virtual membership on there. We are on there on Tuesdays meeting with you guys. Become a virtual member. We would solely appreciate that so much. Also check us out on YouTube. We release videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Help support the channel. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment, we really appreciate that. Again, circling back to pcartalk.com, There is a newsletter created on there. Please put your information in there. That way we can keep you up to date on anything that's coming forward and anything that we're going to be doing moving forward and all the exciting things that are coming out. And again, the virtual membership is on pcartalk.com. Now back to the show. All right, we're back from break. Our guest on the show today is going to be Brandon Hartin. He's from Hartin Media Group. Thanks for coming on the show, Brandon.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So Brandon is a young man. He is doing video documentary, and he's doing an Icon series. And there's a video that's coming out that he filmed on the 964. He put a lot of time in, a lot of hours filmed, a lot of editing. But right now he also has another video out with Mark Urbanek with his 356. So he's doing this series of Icon cars, and he also has, he's on YouTube, and he has an Instagram as well. So go ahead and check him out. And he's an up-and-comer, and he's putting in a lot of time, and he's putting in a lot of work, and he's in our local area, and he's a good guy. And we want to kind of shed some spotlight on him and talk to him today about, the Icon series, his goal for his YouTube channel, and things like that, and things are moving forward with him. So let's go ahead and get rolling, right, Aaron?
Yep.
All right. So talk to us a little bit about what's your vision with the Icon series. Can you describe what that is and what you really want that to become?
Yeah, so basically, I've kind of seen, growing up around cars, I've seen a lot of these amazing cars that are really just beautiful, unique, and there's a lot of great people that are surrounding them. But the problem that I've seen is that people pass on, and family members may not care as much about these cars, and it's all kind of forgotten. And I already loved video, telling story, and being a storyteller in a sense. But the Iconic series kind of came up through my dad. He kind of brought up, it was like, maybe we should try to talk to some of these people, try to get in contact with them and tell their stories. I mean, it's like you do video, and maybe this is something that could be something. Mm-hmm. So essentially what it is trying to find these people whose stories aren't told and making them told.
Okay.
And so hopefully it becomes something, or hopefully it does whatever it is. But what it means most to me is to get these stories out, to get them to people. And it's an honor really just to get to know these people. And I feel like that's probably the biggest value that I do get from those things.
Nice.
That's cool. So it's like a living museum with the people and the cars. You're not just going to see them.
Well, I feel super fortunate. It's one of these things that I'm like, man, like people don't really get to interact as much as I get to interact with these people. Like I'm going out, seeking out these people and getting to know them. And it's just such a cool experience just to be a part of it, I guess, being young, looking at it. But.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity too. I think it's a great way to catalog and video catalog people's stories. I think you make a good point where you're trying to do these things where maybe, in this digital era, maybe that's getting lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of doing that similar with the podcast. We kind of have the same theories of like bringing on guests and having them tell stories. And I think that's a good idea. I think it's, there's enough people and enough stories that are available for people to tell those stories. It's not like a competition thing. I mean, you're doing everything, right? Anybody that has a good story, it's a car related story, is pretty much, in line for what you kind of like want to do. Now, how do people reach you? Do they contact you with their story if they're interested and they think they have a unique story, or how do people go about doing that?
Like a list of people just knocking down your door. Hey.
Yeah. So
are you just beating them away with a bat and you're like, dude, okay, your Honda Civic is cool and it's unique to you, and I know that you've had it for 30 years and I love that about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's enough of a story.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's a little bit of everything because I've had people contact me, but I've also seen things. And I had somebody with the first one with Mark Urbanek, you talked about that. We got in contact with him through our friend, a really close friend. And so he introduced us, and that was kind of like, okay, this is a start off. And it ended up being, perfect.
Yeah.
If you guys see the video, you can hopefully, but from my perspective, you can really see his personality come out and just see who he is. But with us, I've kind of like observing from the background and kind of making a little bit of a name of what it is, and now having some more credibility with the first video.
Yeah.
People I can contact them and say, hey, I really love your car. I love what you're doing. And I even do a weekly series called Petrol Heads at a local car show. And that is a little bit of a scouting thing for me because I go out and it's like a mini version. It's a way to get more stuff out for people because
so it's working without working.
Yeah, it's working without working. And so it's basically getting in touch with some really cool people and then eventually taking those people that I'm like, okay, like I really liked working with this guy, or I like this situation,
Okay.
and people refer me all the time.
Nice.
Referrals all day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That's not bad.
Yeah. No, not too bad.
Yeah, that's a great thing to have. You know, obviously, with the petrol heads thing, you know, you get to intermingle with a lot of people. Plus, people are seeing you out there, right? They're seeing you like mix it up, and they're kind of, you know, you're building a name for yourself doing that too.
Yeah.
I like the idea too with the having Mark art video already out. It's kind of adds to your portfolio and kind of gives you
Having a portfolio.
Yeah.
almost saying, hey, well, you know, if you're interested, you know, if not, you know, here's my card. Go check it out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I hear from you, great. If not, you know, hope to work with you someday, you know, in the future.
Yeah, and it's really cool to kind of be on like, I don't know, because I don't know how it's received to people all the time, right? Because you guys understand, you're a creator, you release it,
Yep,
and you
just put it out there and you hope for the best.
Yeah, hope for the best, right? And so we kind of made a hype for it for the first video with Mark. We try to go and do a lot of social media campaigning and things like that. And Mark is a genius with that stuff. He really does a great job. And so he gave me a lot of pointers, and like I was going into it a little bit blind, you know. All I knew how to do was work a gimbal, a camera, some audio, and
you're like, how do I market this?
Yeah, how do I make this work? Yeah. I mean, you go into the perspective thinking, okay, like if I just put something out on YouTube, then it's going to be great. Like,
yeah, that's what everybody thinks, right?
Yeah, they think people
this
don't
is
realize.
Easy, man. I just make a video, I put it up, and then I get 1 million views, right? That's how this works.
Yeah, no way. I wish it was that easy. Then you'd have a lot more famous people.
Exactly right.
But no, Sorry, I'm getting all over the place. But
fine.
basically, I don't know it. I completely just lost my train of thought.
No, it's fine. You were talking about how Mark was helping you market things.
Yeah, he helped us market, and it was super cool to be able to have that portfolio. And then I've had people kind of reach out to me and say, like, well, not even, I mean, they didn't even know I was a part of it. That's the crazy thing is going around.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll go and I'll film. I mean, obviously that's not
So they thought it was like Mark's video?
Yeah. Well,
like, oh, you did this, Mark.
Well, it's not. It's
Good
not
job, Mark. Way to go.
Well,
this is not Mark's video. This is Brandon's video.
Well, yeah, that's how I feel on the inside for sure. But it's more so of they're like, oh, I saw a video. And honestly, I get that. Like before I did any video stuff, I wasn't like, oh, who's the producer on this? Like, I'm not that guy.
I don't care.
Yeah, that's a good point. Unless
Yeah.
you're in that industry, that doesn't, a lot of people don't care, right?
Yeah, basically.
I just want to see it. I don't care who made it.
Yeah, I don't care. And so I've had people that are like, oh, yeah, like, I mean, just the other day where you guys were with me, there was Fernando. He drives up in his gorgeous 356, and somebody's like, oh, I saw a video on that. And I was like, oh, really? You did?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And so I'm like, I asked a little bit about it, and I kind of knew right then because he was like, yeah, I saw a video on it. Like he goes on like dirt roads and stuff. And I was like, no, he doesn't. But
Yeah. You're like, not this car.
yeah, not this.
Like a beach.
Yeah, like you mean like a beach or
You're like, this exact car?
Or it's like a brick road maybe? No,
Yeah.
like so I was like, actually like I was like, I think was the car beat up? And he was like, yeah, I was a little bit beat up. And like I was kind of like, it's right there, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, like it was beat up. And I was like, oh yeah, like I was a part of that. And so it's kind of cool to get some outside stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, I know of that without knowing it's me. And I'm like, yeah. And it's kind of like throws them for a loop because like I look like I'm 15. I'm actually 20, believe it or not. But yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. And it's great that you're doing that at such, I guess, at a young age, that you have some inspiration and you have some like desire to go after that. Because I know when I was that age, I was kind of lost, right? Like I guess my focus was like kind of hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a PhD in hanging out, man. That's what I do.
Chilling. Yeah.
I'm good at this.
Beer pong.
What
Sweet.
is that? What is that country song? I'm pretty good at drinking beer.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But yeah, something like that. But so let's segue into some, like, use this as kind of maybe a platform if anybody's probably listening. Like, what are some of the guests that you maybe think that you want to try to aspire to have? I mean, they could be lofty guests. I mean, not to put you on the spot, but
Yeah.
but to maybe some people that you would think that could probably tell a good story that you know enough about already that you could say, hey, I'd love to have this person, and maybe we can help that happen.
Well, kind of, so a little bit to sidestep the question, not exactly avoid it, but to sidestep it, it's a little bit of like, for me, I feel a lot like, there's something about meeting a guy like the janitor, and like I think about the janitor in my elementary school, right? Everybody loved this dude. Like he was the coolest guy. Like gave out candy, kind of creepy. Don't take candy from your janitor.
I was just about to say,
Just a PSA.
where is this going?
I mean,
this is a PG show.
He was awesome to me. I thought he was awesome. But basically, it was. That being said, I was like,
candy all the time.
it was candy. It was so good. I felt really weird. No, but he would give it, like, he was just a really nice guy. And there was something about the fact that he wasn't known. And to me, it's like, I feel like I have a duty to make sure these people are known. So not necessarily having somebody that's crazy famous. It would be cool.
Yeah.
But mine is more so of getting the people that don't have the stories out there like that. Because Mark Probanik, like, perfect example. This guy, he kind of has a little bit of a following. People know of him in the Porsche world, but I think more people deserve to know this guy.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of these people that are just unspoken for. And for me, those are the people that I want. I want those people that are kind of unique, like have a beat up 356. I don't care.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what I'm looking for. So anybody that really has a decent story that I think like...
Well, that's well put. I mean, I think that keeps an open mind, you know what I mean? As far as like, okay, well, I'm shooting for this person. Like that's a great answer actually, you know, as far as like, you know, if it's a story, I don't know, you know, I don't know your story until you tell it to me and then let's do it.
Well, I have a little bit of a background of like, not necessarily a background, but an interest in documentary filming.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I got into it. There's something called like Vice on YouTube. They do these crazy things, like crazy stuff on there. And I thought, man, that is the coolest stuff. Now, I don't necessarily want to get into the same situations these guys are getting into.
You don't want to be in the jungles of Colombia?
Yeah, not
like
exactly.
With the drug runners?
But I thought that was, from a creative standpoint, I'm like, that is really cool. I just thought it was awesome how they told stories. They just got really unique stuff. And for me, that's kind of like, I want the story to tell itself. I don't necessarily want to be the person that creates this story. I want that person to come through my video. I'm just a catalyst to create more of a story for that person to make sure people get known, that it's known about.
Nice.
So is it always a person, or have you ever seen a car and you're like, man, this car and that person, there's got to be something there?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like there's a lot of cars that you see and you're like, man, that's got to have a great story, you know, and a lot of that goes with patinaed cars. And I mean, seeing even the cars that we saw yesterday at Revs, like just seeing some of those cars, it's like that. It was a gorgeous car. And like, there's like, and I think about this sometimes, not even just with cars, but like with something individual that's like, I wonder how many hours have been put into this thing, or like what it went through. Like you think about space launches, right? Like there's so many people behind that are creating and like... Yeah,
behind the scenes.
And nobody even knows about it, right?
It's just here.
It's just here, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's very appreciated, right? And these icons are not even known about. And so for me, it's kind of like, man, I'd really like to know those stories. And I guess maybe that's just a storyteller's kind of mind, or I guess you could say, but I don't know. It's just it's a cool thing to feel like I'm contributing somehow.
Of course. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. You know, as far as... Let's rewind a little bit as far as interest in film and documenting and, you know, having all that. Do you have any formal schooling behind that? How did that kind of interest kind of turn into something that you wanted to pursue? How did that for all the, you know, the younger people that are listening to say, just how do I get started doing that?
Watching, and you're like,
I can do better than that.
Yeah. And I've had that question, obviously, in a formal setting, doing this as a job. People are like, what's your education, right? And so for me, it started with art. So I did a lot of like art stuff in high school. I never actually got taught anything in art. I just did it. And eventually I was accepted into one of the higher programs that they were like, know what, you got some good stuff. Let's go ahead and do it. And so it was an AP program. And so it was for college and things like that. And so I did that stuff, and I always thought, man, it would kind of be cool to do video, but it seems like a lot of work. I don't really know if I could do that. And my dad always messed around with cameras growing up. And so I didn't really... I kind of paid attention, but I saw how shots were supposed to be set up.
Okay.
And I felt something that everybody, I felt like everybody knew this. I guess.
Dad's a camera nerd. It's weird.
Yeah, he's a nerd. He's making me sit here forever for these photos. Now,
why are we waiting for the sun to get at a certain part of the day?
It's stupid. It's always
6:23.
Yeah. No, but I saw that, and it was kind of like I had a friend that did YouTube, and so that was another element that was added to it. My dad was working at his office, and he had a team. And so basically his team, he needed videos done for his team. And so he's like, your friend does YouTube. If you want to, you guys come out and we can do some videos. So we go out there, we do like a little bit. I do like an intro, like we film a little bit of an intro. And then my buddy decides like, oh, I can't really do anything anymore. Like you're going to have to kind of take it. And so my dad, I'm like,
forced into it.
Yeah. I'm like, well, sweet. And so I get my dad's camera, kind of run with what I know, look up some stuff and kind of just go with it. And I basically go through and I film some stuff and it goes all right. And then my dad's like, hey, like, can we do this or this? And I'm very much a perfectionist, and that comes through. That started with the art stuff. Crazy perfectionist. And so I'm like, okay, I want to do this. So I give myself little tasks. I'd be like, okay, I want to make sure this background looks blurry, and I want both my cameras to look blurry. And I'll go into it a little bit, just for the people that might understand this. So basically, I wanted a blurry background, and so I had one camera with a lens that was capable of doing this. I had my iPhone camera, and at the time, they couldn't have blurry backgrounds. And so what I did is I set up the second angle and then put up a green screen behind the person. But I took a picture of the wall beforehand with the blurry lens, and then loaded that picture up over the green screen to make it look like there was a blurry background. And so I'd give myself tasks to make sure these things would happen to make it look good. And so he would get feedback from his team, and it's like, okay, kind of built it up. And then I leave for 2 years on a mission to Sweden. And so when I'm over there, I do a little bit of stuff. I come back, the Iconic series is kind of brought up. I'm like, okay, like I might actually be able to do something with this. And a lot of that had to do with like Ramsey Potts kind of getting me to these people that I needed to get to. And so it was kind of one of those things that I didn't know this was something I was going to do. I've only been doing this for like 3 years. And coming back, I was like, okay, this is something I actually love. Like I'll sit down and I'll edit and I'll forget to eat. I'll forget to drink. I don't think about anything else. And I just do it.
Because you're so involved.
I'm so involved and I love it. And it's kind of one of those things I don't have to think. I just do.
Yeah.
And I think it's something for the creative people to just go for it. Because I've always had the thought process in my head to be like, I will be successful. Yeah. I will make sure it happens.
Yeah, because you know you're going to work as hard as you can to make sure that it happens.
Exactly. Right? And I mean, if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, but I still learned something along the way.
Of course.
And so I think that's kind of the thing that everybody can take away in a sense, that it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you really enjoy it and you really feel like there's going to be something there, you feel like, okay, I think I could do something with it. I think it'll work out, you know?
I agree with that. You know, like as long as you put your heart and soul in it. I think the biggest thing, it's not even that part. I think what it is for, at least in my personal opinion, it's just the patience, right? Like you just got to be patient. Just stick with it. Don't let the morale get you down, you know, as far as like just keep knocking it out, right? And I think it's just one of those type of deals.
Absolutely.
So did you do any video stuff in Sweden while you were there?
Yeah, so I did a few things because it was like I was with a religious organization and I was working with the church. I was focusing a lot of my time in that area, but on the side to help what I was doing, I would use video. And so I took pictures and some videos. My actual plan was to make a documentary when I got back. It was just kind of my experience. Halfway through, I lost all the footage.
Oh no!
And I had gorgeous stuff in Stockholm and just all this beautiful thing, all this beautiful work, and I'm just like so upset. But there's a few times where I was like, I'm gonna go on the street and ask people some questions. And if you guys, for anybody that doesn't know, Sweden people are very antisocial. Yeah. And so I went out and just asked them religious questions, which
I'm sure
that went real well.
It was hilarious, dude. I mean, oh my gosh, it was so great. But I did that, and it went kind of viral. For me, viral at the time, the most views I'd had were like 1,000 views before that point, and this one got to like 10,000 views. Yeah. And so that was a cool experience, and that was something that was like, okay, like, I think I can do something. Yeah. This is possible. This is within the realm. And I think like my parents have been very supportive. I got to say, I'll give a shout out to them because they've been way supportive, even though I know it's looked really bleak at times. So I come back from Sweden. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do video.
Yeah, and they're like, I'm going to be a YouTuber. Yeah, I'm going to be like, what happened to you while you were there?
I figured out life, did you?
Yeah. I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'll be
You're
successful.
never going to Sweden again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You sit here, and I'm going to take 2 years to brainwash you to figure out what happened to you, whatever, while you were there, to get that out of you.
Yeah, no, it's been good, though. And it's been kind of a grind of work and kind of being like, you know what, like, I'm taking it as it goes. Yeah. And it's gone great. Yeah. I got to say, it's gone great. And I've been super fortunate to meet a lot of amazing people and just be a part of it and to film some amazing things. Yeah. That's the cool part.
That's really cool.
I get to see some cool cars. Yeah. And that's probably my favorite part too, is like, there's a guy who literally let me just take his Ford GT new gen, put it on the end of a runway, and I could just film it.
That's cool.
And I'm like, what other person gets to just do that? Like a normal person, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It's just cool.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So speaking like of cars a little bit, I know you're pretty young as far as that goes, but do you have a favorite mark? Do you have a favorite brand? What do you gravitate towards too?
Yeah, so right now I'm in a tuning shop, right? I do a lot of video at a tuning shop like weekly, and they're all very much muscle car guys,
Yeah.
and I'm the Porsche guy. Like when there's a Porsche that comes up, I go outside, I look at it, and I talk to the guy.
You're telling them the stuff that's on
Yeah,
it.
basically, I'm like, oh, that's sick. Like, that's great. And all these other guys are like, oh, I want to go fast. And I'm like, I want to take turns fast. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
The
that-
road does.
They're like, why is this one
turn.
special? Looks like all the other ones. And you're like,
exactly.
"Dude, this does
They all
not
look like bugs
the
and
other-"
frogs.
Yeah.
But I don't know that, and that was a cool thing. Growing up, my parents like very much conditioned me to love Porsche, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And it started with cars. I didn't get to learn about cars until I needed to buy my own car or
Yeah.
like get a car myself. I needed to learn about the engines and things like that. And so, I'm very much German branded
Yeah.
cars. I got to say, I mean, Audi and Porsche are kind of
Yeah.
the ones I really love. Now Porsche, very much
Yeah.
like I have a lot more like knowledge and perspective.
Yeah,
on
and you have
Porsche.
seat time in Porsche too, right? Your
Oh,
parents
yeah.
let you take their Cayman quite often.
Yeah, so-
Shout out to mom.
Yeah,
you
shout
know?
out to mom and dad. I'm the spoiled kid that gets to
Yeah.
drive my mom's Porsche. Basically,
to be rich, bro.
Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, that's kind of been the cool part because this is not a proud thing, but I'm pretty sure when I got home, the Porsche we had like 13,000 miles on it. It's been about 6 months since I've been home, and now it's at about like 19,000
Good for
miles.
you.
And so I've put in a good amount of time on it. No tickets.
As mom's
Yeah, so,
cringing
like-
at home, like,
yeah, no, I get. And the funny thing is, they're always like, Brandon has driven the Porsche because the spoiler is still up when you come back home. And we've talked about
Yeah, we
this.
did have
Yeah,
that conversation.
yeah.
It's like, so do you feel it's okay if you leave the spoiler up when you park the car? I was like, it depends on how old you are.
Yeah, exactly.
You were okay with that. I think anybody above 30, we were saying something like
Yeah,
that.
it's
is
like 25,
yeah,
30, yeah.
you can't be caught dead doing something like that.
No.
You got to let it go back down.
You're that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, we get it. You have a retractable spoiler. You don't
Yep.
need to leave it up.
Yeah, no, we get it.
It's automated for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been really cool though, because I mean I've felt a difference between Audis and Porsches, and there really is just something about driving. I love listening to music in the car, and that's kind of like a cool thing, is just being able to drive and like listen to music, but also just turning off the music and driving. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of just
Yep, there's a lot of times there's just no radio, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could be listening to something, but
yeah, you're like no.
You're like,
I
I'm
mean,
good.
Yeah, you got the wind going. I mean, I get to hear the exhaust
Yeah.
go a little bit, and it's kind of cool. And I mean, I get a lot of looks,
Yeah.
obviously, and not all of them are nice looks, but
Yeah.
it's really
You
cool.
get that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
just turned 16 and got a Cayman. So
Yeah. Oh wow, you're
Yeah.
awesome. Like
Exactly.
you're gonna go far in life.
Must be nice, huh?
Yeah.
Trust fund, baby.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. It's been being able to drive, being able to
Yeah.
experience all those things that people talk about, and I don't even realize it sometimes. I actually was talking to Lisa, my fiance, and I was like, I'm actually kind of sad. I'm going to be getting a car soon. I won't be able to drive my mom's Porsche
Yeah.
anymore. And I know that sounds so like ridiculous, but it's like,
No, it's actually smart.
Yeah.
like I would put that
yeah,
off too.
for
Yeah,
obvious
yeah,
reasons,
yeah.
yeah. But it's, I don't know. I feel like like this is the car that taught me to love Porsche.
Yeah.
I feel like, and
Yeah,
so to
exactly.
me, it has that sentimental value.
Uh-huh.
Because my mom had a Boxster and my dad had a Boxster
Uh-huh.
growing up at two different times, like a
Yeah, yeah.
2001 and like a 2010. But I couldn't drive at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never got to drive any of the cool cars really.
Yeah.
And so while I was in Sweden, they got the Cayman.
Yeah.
I was like, you've got to be kidding
You're
me.
like, what?
Like
He
they
leaves?
just got
What?
this.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is happening back home? I need to get back ASAP.
Exactly. And so I'm like, they send me pictures. And I'm
That
like,
money
oh my
tree has
gosh.
sprouted in the backyard.
Exactly. It's incredible. Yeah, no, it was. So that's been really cool. That's been a cool experience to
Yeah.
be able to relate in a way that I didn't know I could actually relate to, because you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving, I feel the road. I know what's going on. I had to, when we were driving down to Reeves, on the way there I drove the truck, and on the way back I drove the car.
Mm-hmm.
And the truck is comfortable, and I mean, I love Porsche, but I gotta say, you're going long trips, your back's gonna hurt.
Of course.
Like,
Absolutely. Totally get it.
But I feel like that's a part of the experience. You gotta,
Yeah.
I mean, it forces you to get out and look at stuff.
Exactly.
On
You're
the-
like, I got to stretch my back.
Exactly.
There's a reason
Exactly.
Permanic picks all those places to go sightseeing. and
Exactly.
spots.
It's
It's
genius.
just to get out.
Yeah, and that's why you see
stretch.
Perbanik picking up glass on every beach he can pick it up on, right? He's like, oh,
This is
stopped
some glass.
again.
Wow, Mark, you're so interesting.
You're deep.
Yeah, you're
real
deep.
deep.
Exactly. Meanwhile, he's just icing down his back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He's like, oh, it's so hot. I just got to go for a swim in the ocean.
Oh yeah, and it was cool. I got some pictures yesterday that I showed you guys that were just kind of like we were next to the Skyway Bridge, and it was off on a beach, and that was something that I wouldn't have experienced if I didn't stop. And that's all that Mark is about, really, and that's rubbed off on me quite a bit. And so since I've got to know Mark and a little bit of what my dad loves in Porsches, I've loved the vintage Porsches.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mike, your 964. I mean, I would die for that car. I
Oh,
love
thank
that
you.
thing. I mean, the race aspect of it. That's what I really love. Is like I love a classy 356, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong. But having that like low, like straight pipe, and I mean that rumble that when you go by,
Yeah.
it's just like this race car feel. Like in the roll cage, I don't know. There's just something about it that it has its own spirit, really. And that's been the cool part of filming for
thank
that,
you.
getting to know the car, getting to know
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I don't really have anything else. Do you have anything for me? Aaron?
I do have one question. So since you're a big story guy, what's your favorite historical Porsche story? Like
Historical Porsche story?
like 917 Le Mans win or anything like that that you can.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So that's the thing. I know a little bit about Porsche. I don't know a ton about the racing history. Now, the racing history that I do really appreciate is a little bit like Sterling Moss,
Yeah.
like that era. But I mean, I do like I know they have the new Niki Lauda story with the
Yeah.
that I'm really pumped to see that. And that's a world that I'm stepping into now.
Okay.
And so that's something I'm really excited about to kind of get to know.
Yeah, you get to
those
learn.
stories.
I mean, I'm envious in a way because you still get to learn a lot
Exactly,
of stuff. You know, there's
yeah.
so much history you
got
still
time
get
on
to
your
learn
side.
because, like, I love, like we talked a little bit about it today at breakfast where we're sitting down. I'm like, we're data logging all this like history, you
Yeah.
know, like, and the guys that are history buffs or, just love the story, like us, we
Yeah.
all love the story. And you're going to remember all those stories and you got so many more to still like learn. And like, that's so exciting in a way too, because it's like, man, I can't wait till you hear this story. And it's like,
Yeah.
you learn that story and you're like, oh my God, can you believe this?
Well, yeah, that's the cool thing. I mean, the biggest thing with all of this, right, as I'm doing video stuff, it's all cool. It's all this, that, and whatever. But in the end of it, I really like coming back. Like I want to leave behind. I want to leave something good behind for other people to
Absolutely.
get something from.
Totally agree with that.
And that, I mean, that's super cool. And it just popped into my mind. And I know this is, I feel bad, but like obviously Brumos. I don't even
Yeah.
know why. I mean, it's right here. Like
Yeah.
Brumos. I do love, like Hurley Haywood.
Yeah, great
That's-
story, right?
It's super cool, just what he did. I mean, even like the documentary with Patrick Dempsey, that was
Yeah.
really cool to kind of get to know a little bit more about what's going on. And so it was. I mean, I don't know. It was really cool to. It's really cool to be able to know some people are
Absolutely,
surrounding
that were involved, right?
Yeah.
Like firsthand.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate being in Florida and having the ability to get close to some of those individuals,
Yeah,
right?
like I've talked to Hurley.
Yeah.
It's like not many people can
Exactly,
say that.
and had those conversations.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, because the reason I got into even Sterling Moss is because I sketched a picture of his car at Amelia when they were trying to sell it. Didn't hit the reserve, and so I like go out and I try to find the dude. I'm like, I'm gonna get him to sign this picture, and he like I had to jump a few fences.
Yeah.
I go back, I see him like walking with his wife, and like they're like, oh, you can't go back here, and I'm like waving, and his wife sees me. And so Sterling Moss walks over to me.
That's so
and I get to talk to him, and he like signs my my sketch of his car.
That's so cool.
And so that's like, to me, that's what I want.
Uh-huh.
Like I want to create my own story.
Yeah.
I want to leave. I want to get to the point where I can be like, you know what? I feel like I could make something of what I've lived, you know?
Yeah,
And
that's a good way to
not
look
in
at
a conceited way.
No,
but
yeah, but you want to live an interesting story,
exactly.
right?
I want to live an interesting story, not to just show off, but to be able to be like, I've been a part of some really cool
Yep,
things.
exactly. I've left a mark. I left a positive mark. I've done some things. I've done this.
Yeah.
Like I did everything the right way. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's to me, that's the most important, because I want, when we capture Mark Probanic's story, we're leaving behind a story for his children to listen to.
I agree with that. Yep.
And another guy that
Yeah,
we're going to
and
do
future
is-
generations even,
Yeah.
like people don't even know Mark, like, hey, somebody might tell his story
I
someday.
can't believe this guy drove this 356
Yeah.
in this condition to
Yeah.
California and
Exactly.
Florida and back. This is crazy.
It's, I mean,
Did you know you could get glass on the beach?
there's glass there.
I didn't know that.
He should
We
make
need to get water shoes ASAP.
Start making vintage bottles.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that absolutely agree with that. But want to thank you for coming on the show. That was
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good stuff.
You
A
know,
lot of
thank you
fun.
so much. If you guys haven't already done it, go on to YouTube, check out Hartin Media on there. They got the little owl. You can't miss them. He's got some great videos out. Like he said, he's putting out his petrol head videos. He's putting out his icon series. Go follow this young man. He is doing so many great things. We definitely appreciate him being on the show. And go ahead in the comments section, tell us what you guys think. Watch some of his videos, comment on his stuff, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yep.
Yeah,
See ya.
see ya.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at pcartalk.com.